Are you ready?
Let's get ready to rumble! Can't wait!
This is Moffett on the mic on the A1 Sports Network.
Bow to the masters. Break it down!
How you doing, everybody? Welcome to the Moffett on the Mic radio show. We are courtesy of Zoom on the A1 Sports Network. I am Craig Moffett, and as always, this show would not be complete without the people's producer, the head honcho, the big cheese, the chief cook and bottle washer of A1 Sports Network. I'm talking about Klim's dad. No, I'm just kidding. I am talking about, of course, the people's producer, Chris Klim.
Greg, I am very excited for today. It's been a long time since we talked to Ike.
Yeah, I'm pretty psyched. For those of you who will be joining us via the podcast that Klim will take care of with courtesy of Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. We have our first guest in a long time. And isn't it funny, Klim, how we ended our run with Worldwide with Isaac, and we are now starting our new venture, and he is our first guest in our new venture. Of course, we're talking about one of my good friends and a good friend of the A1 Sports Network and a good friend of the Moffett on the Mic show. He is the host of the now Ike-Tagon Podcast. Ike Feldman is going to join us in about 10 minutes, talk some MMA. We got a lot to go over in that. So we're really psyched about that. Tomorrow night, just giving you all a heads up, Jake Asman from the Jake Asman Show is going to join us as well. We're going to be talking a lot of Jets football. We'll talk about Major League Baseball. We're going to talk about the Houston Texans. Jake's based out of Houston with SB Nation Radio. He just got his show back today. It was actually really good. So I checked it out for a little while. He's on 9 to 11, Monday to Friday on SB Nation Radio. So tomorrow night he'll be with us to talk a lot about what's going on in the NFL and Major League Baseball. Klim, how was your weekend?
Good weekend. Kind of quiet. We just celebrated my older brother's birthday, but, it was a good weekend.
Good. Dude, I feel like such a shitheel for I didn't know that you and Casey broke up. And I still feel crappy about it, dude.
It's not your fault. If anything, it's my fault because you've mentioned it a couple of times, and I'm like, I gotta tell her. I just haven't. I was like, I gotta tell him. I was like, I didn't tell him yet. So when you mentioned it last time, I was like, okay, it's time. I gotta say it.
So, pretty quiet weekend all around for the most part. Still a lot of the usual BS regarding baseball, regarding hockey, although baseball kind of taking a step forward, people think today, as some states are allowing major league teams to start play as of June 1st. So that could be kind of a victory for Major League Baseball, especially as California is starting to lift restrictions. Cuomo is trying to push for, the Mets and Yankees to get going, as well as teams like the Buffalo Bills in upstate New York, because they've just started lifting their coronavirus restrictions. So, you're getting this vibe that there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, which is what you want to see. We still have a ways to go, but for the most part, things are hopefully starting to take shape. One can only hope at this point, right?
Yeah, we can only stay. Yeah, like you mentioned, we can only hope that things are going to get back to normal soon, whether it's with fans or without fans. And you've been seeing it recently a little bit. You saw it with UFC's getting back to it. No fans, but they're starting to get fights going. The NASCAR is doing races again. They're not the big four of sports in the United States. But it's something, at least. It's something, sports fans who are just jonesing to watch something will turn into watch, whether it's on ESPN Plus with the UFC, or they're going to turn into NASCAR. The people will tune in to watch it just because it's sports.
Exactly. And that's all you need really on the weekends is a distraction because, after a while, the news just becomes redundant, becomes all the same. Social media becomes all the same. Liberals will be liberals. Trump lovers will be Trump lovers. Nothing's going to change. So there's no point in really trying to fight it at this point. Let's just try to get back to some level of normalcy because that's really all we need at this point. That's really what we need, and that's what we got to have.
Exactly.
So it's good to see UFC coming back. It's good to see NASCAR running races. There's some talk now about the U.S. Open may not be taking place this summer. Tennis, not golf. not taking place at Arthur Ashe or Flushing Meadow Park. They might be moving it to somewhere else. It's really hard to say, although most of the tennis players are not really crazy about the idea. Until baseball comes up with an ironclad plan, I just don't really see any possibility of a season.
Yeah, because it's not, you're not getting anything, like, you're not getting any good news
Yeah.
from MLB's plans. You're not hearing anything, which isn't good. At least with, like, Adam Silver came out and they're like, okay, we'll have a decision within 2 to 4 weeks. All right, at least you're hearing something. Baseball, you're not hearing anything. It's
And that's a good point, because they always say no news is good news.
yeah,
Well, in this case, no news is not necessarily good news, because if you're not taking steps forward now, just keep in mind we're 2 weeks away from June.
Yeah.
June 1st is 2 weeks from today.
yeah. They ideally wanted to start by the 4th of July. But
Yeah,
these
they
guys,
want spring training in the middle of June. I mean, they want to get started in the middle of June, and there's still no word on anything going on, and it's a little troublesome. But it's tough to say, man, at this point, if they're going to have a season. I just can't. I think it's 50-50. And maybe tomorrow when we have Jake on, we'll get his opinion on it, because, I mean, I don't see any really colossal steps forward in getting these sports back on track.
right?
And NBA too, because, now the draft is definitely going to get pushed back. You already know that. They've already canceled that G League training camp that they were going to do, I guess, to show off some hopefuls.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got? I mean, pretty much. And, everything's still up in the air. Yes, facilities are starting to open in certain areas. Tomorrow, there's going to be any states that meet the requirements. They can open up their team facilities. The Giants and Jets are at a disadvantage already. So they won't be able to open up at all. So that's, again, a knockback for New York.
Yeah.
And you're just not seeing enough progress right now. And I think you have to be able to see that progress. Manfred seems optimistic. Cuomo seems very optimistic. I mean, maybe they're just trying to put the details together. They're trying to finalize the details. Who knows? But right now, it's no news is not necessarily great news.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we could find out within the next couple of days that, baseball has put together a spring training schedule for 2 weeks, and then by July 4th, they'll be rocking and rolling.
Yeah, and the thing is that the more people are stuck inside, the more people are going to start to get very antsy and get very agitated, and it's only going to get progressively worse.
Yeah.
I'm one of these people that will basically tell you that, yes, I think for the most part, I think Cuomo's done a good job. I'm not saying he hasn't. I think anybody could have done a good job just being focused and just sticking to the science and everything, because when we didn't know what was going on. But I think at this point, we have to break away from that doom and gloom. We have to try to, understand that, like, the curve is flattening and it's going down. And then while it is going down a little bit of a snail's pace, you have to start preparing for life now. We got to start getting back into the swing of things a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's, sports or stores back opening, it has to return back to some kind of normalcy. And we got whatever it is, whether it's, just small stores opening up, beaches opening up, whatever it is. People, we've been inside for 2 months, basically inside for 2 months now. And, it's getting to people. It really is.
I mean, listen, you see people riding bikes, see people doing stuff throughout the day like they were normally not accustomed to doing. But now it's just a case of that we have to start getting back to, whether stores are going to be open. This is where plans should be in place now.
Exactly.
And that's kind of important. Before we get Isaac on, we're about a few minutes away from when he joins us. The Andre Baker thing took a pretty weird turn today, as while he did turn himself in, and so did Quentin Dunbar, now there's a lot of talk that it went from a possibility of 15 years per aggravated, charge, armed robbery charge, to now no case at all. Because apparently the witnesses have all recanted their testimonies, which is never a good sign. So, and you start to think to yourself, was he hanging around a bunch of bad people, or just people who don't want to be caught in the loop of this whole thing? Now we don't really know what to make of this case. We don't really know what the NFL is going to do, because if nobody moves, the DA doesn't move forward with a trial for Baker or Dunbar, then what can the NFL do? They can't punish the guy if he doesn't go to trial.
Yeah,
you really have no evidence of anything.
I mean,
Baker's lawyer and Dunbar's lawyer are claiming there's video that exonerates both clients.
I mean, I guess until that video is shown, I honestly, they should at least get suspended because the story came out that, like they stole all this money, they were running for the cops, and then the fact that they did turn themselves in, yeah, it's all a little fishy right now. But until like they can actually be proven not guilty, I would say they get like a 4-game suspension.
Well, it's going to have to be something. I mean, Goodell's going to have to kind of put the hammer down a little bit on this. They could appeal it, though, and that could get a little messy because, again, if there's no case brought to trial, then technically they're innocent until proven guilty, right? I mean, I'm not trying to defend them by any stretch of the imagination, but facts are facts. And if nobody's going to come forward and detail what happened on that day, unless you have the stuff that they stole, that might be the only way you could move forward with something.
Right.
Yeah, when all is said and done, Goodell may just put a fine or a suspension on them because they have to. If DeAndre Baker was smart, he'd probably just take it because instead of fighting it, because let's call it what it was. You were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and if it wasn't for just a few witnesses who decided to hold back their testimony, you'd probably be in jail right now. Or better yet, you'd be out of, who knows at this point.
Yeah, we have no idea, like I said, until like, it actually gets proven that he's not guilty or he's not, this or that, he's still, I know it's proven innocent until guilty or whatever the hell that saying is, but we got to find out the stone cold facts about what happened in this whole situation. Will Goodell suspend him? Will he not? Will he get arrested? Who knows? We have no idea.
And that's the investigation portion at this point. That's where, the NFL has to step in. They probably have to get the facts from the case and then just kind of figure it out. But, I mean, it's amazing how it went from, man, this guy could do 60 years in jail because it was 4 counts of armed robbery, 15 years per count because it was a semi-automatic weapon,
right,
to now they may not have a case at all. And when you don't have, I don't know if they even have the weapon. I don't know if they have anything to go on. And if the lawyers are saying that this is going to exonerate Quentin Dunbar as well as DeAndre Baker, well, there's not really much you can do.
Right. It's a fishy situation, and we'll wait to see what actually happens with them.
I mean, the thing is, I don't even know if they can be disciplined by the Giants at the end of the day, because again, if you have nothing to go on, they could easily just say, well, you're suspending me for no reason and I haven't done anything wrong. I mean, it's
exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, even if the Giants wanted to do something, the only thing they really could do is release him and just to say, you know what, we're just cutting ties. That's it. We're not even going to do anything, No,
exactly. And like, this is what it is. I mean, isn't it amazing? Like, this is what's going on. This is like the biggest thing to talk about in sports right now. But if you've noticed, did you see that there was like a weird trend over the weekend of players getting arrested for like firearms?
Yeah, it was really weird.
DeAndre Baker, Quentin Dunbar, Cody Latimer, and on Sunday it was Ed Oliver.
Yeah, real.
He got arrested for DUI and possession of a firearm.
Yeah, it's real weird what's been like going on. I mean, I guess if you keep people inside long enough, they're bound to slip up with something, whether it's a gun, weed, crack, whatever it is. The people are bound to slip up when they're cooped up inside this long.
Sometimes it's a case of the company you keep.
Yeah.
And you can't really have that either. It's like you have to know, especially now that you're in the NFL.
Yeah.
You're a professional athlete. It's almost like, Clem, what you do for a living or what I do job-wise. It's like you just have to know to stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
You're older. You're getting older now, because you have to be more mature about it.
Yeah.
Now, listen, these guys are 21, 22 years old, so they're still a little bit immature.
Yeah.
But you just have to know to stay out of trouble, because your NFL career could end very quickly before it begins.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with guys like DeAndre Baker, it has a chance to end a lot quickly than for guys like Ed Oliver.
Yeah.
Because Ed Oliver is a good pass rusher. And again, though, it's just, what the hell is going on with these guys? I mean, it's just it's unreal. Like every day there was a new guy getting arrested.
Yeah, it was real weird, real shaky weekend. And I hate to end this, but Ike's here, so I'm going to let him in.
Ike's here?
Ike's here.
All right, so without further ado, let's see there he is. Without further ado, it is time, as always. This is our first guest in a long time. He ended our show on Worldwide over a year ago, and he is back now with us. one and only of the Ike-Tagon Podcast, my good friend Ike Feldman. Isaac, what's up, man?
What's up? Can you guys hear me clearly and everything?
Sound great. Sounds
Hear
good.
you loud and clear.
Awesome. We got to do weird live air checks. Yeah, I'm glad you guys got over your legal suit with Worldwide. Glad you guys are doing your own thing, though.
Well, we had an issue with somebody cleaning in the office during a live show. We thought it wasn't in the contract, so we,
It was just a shit show when we were there. So it was
we had it out, so we took
better
it.
off with doing this.
and we can curse now, as
Yeah,
Chris just did.
Yeah, we can curse now.
It's not a family show, Ike. You know that.
Oh, go to your bed.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Just zooming and podcasting in my free time, and just happy to be joined by Craig and Chris, man. This is it feels good again.
That's what I was telling Craig this. I'm like, it feels really good to get Ike back on the show. It's like every time we've done an interview with you, it was like we always walked away. We're like, you know what, this was really good. We had laughs. It was hilarious. It was just.
Let's recap. The first time we interviewed Isaac, he was out with his friends and he was getting hammered.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we're in the Uber.
I literally remember you putting us on hold to say, "Save the beer." That was one of the best. Okay. The second time, I think you were with your wife at the Knicks Mets game. You were going home in an Uber.
Yep, good memory.
Okay.
Good memory.
And then the third time, I think we finally got you sitting on your front porch or something, where it was like, that there was no distractions, no nothing.
Yeah, and then we were just casually talking about Paige Van Zant's surgeries.
Yeah.
I don't know where Clem's sessions lie these days with UFC women fighters, but I remember I murdered Joanna Jędrzejczyk's name.
Yeah.
Isaac took me to
It's still dead.
Yeah, I haven't gotten the knife out yet. Clem was on a Paige Van Zant obsession.
I'm still am. That's still my girl. She's way too good looking to be in the UFC. I mean, like.
Well, I'm sure those naked Instagram pictures really,
You see those where they're covering each other's junks
Right?
and stuff?
I'm like, something's gonna leak out here. Like,
absolutely classy.
Nothing's leaking out. He's white, Chris. Come on. I'm kidding.
All right, Isaac, let's get started. So I just want to get your thoughts on UFC's first event without the fans. And due to the pandemic, I didn't get a chance to check it out. I know Clem did. But basically, I want to get your thoughts of it, and I want to know if you think that this could be a good blueprint for like Bellator or PFL when they start getting going. Because I would think if two organizations are really suffering because of this, it's Bellator and PFL.
Yeah, 100% believe it's a great blueprint, but obviously we all know that it starts with not what you know, but who you know. Dana White knows Trump. He spoke at his RNC, and, I'm sure that relationship had something to do with getting his event, getting it going faster than obviously the NBA or NFL or MLB stuff. I mean, Vince McMahon, same thing. I heard he's got a great relationship with Donald Trump. And Vince McMahon was doing this weeks ago in Florida in like one of their WWE training facilities. So it was only proper that Dana White followed him. As far as Bellator and One Championship, they show that they have money. They're connected with Viacom, CBS for Bellator and One Championship. They say they bring in over 100 million viewers, so you would think they have millions of dollars of expendable money. But I think the UFC is just a tier above in terms of money and funds. So I think it might be a little longer before the UFC gets it going. In terms of the no fans, it was weird. It was cool. I was kind of queasy, man. And I don't know if it was like the beer that I was drinking, but when you hear the shin bones crack and the jaws crunch against each other, I was like,
everything.
yeah, I was like, this is weird, man. The fans would be like a bed to those eerie sounds. But yeah, I don't want to get used to it. I can get used to it. Ariel Helwani, I'm sure you guys have seen me on social media. I killed him because he's like, oh, I can get used to these. No fans in the stands. I like it. Nobody's booing. Nobody's this. I was like, you sound like an old program director we used to work with. I'm like, the fans make the sport.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want to get used to no fans.
Well, that was going to be my follow-up question to that. I was like, how does the empty arenas impact like the fighters and the fights in general? Because some of these fighters, Conor McGregor, for example, he lives for these for the fighters and the press conferences and everything. And now that there's, they don't have that. How is it gonna? How does the empty arenas and no fans impact the fighters?
And Clem, you saw the Justin Gaethje Tony Ferguson fight?
Yeah, I saw some of it. Yeah.
So those are two of like the most fan reactionary fight. Is reactionary a word?
It is now.
Those are the two most like.
We don't judge.
What's up?
We don't judge here.
Okay, good. Because I don't know. I can't make a judge joke. I'm just we got to get in sync, man. We need the world back. But yeah, the Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje, they're two of like the most fan reactionary fighters. Tony does his like salsa dancing. Justin Gaethje is like a college football player, Johnny Manziel type, like all momentum based. If you guys, Clem definitely heard the quote from Justin Gaethje's head coach in the corner. He's like, dude, calm down. You see what you can do. You're in the fight. Calm your adrenaline. Take some power off your punches. And he listened, because usually Gaethje gets carried away with the fans. So I guess the fans impacted it in that sense, that you can hear your coaches and maybe you don't get the rah-rah like I hit him once and it was a miss. But the drunk guy on the nosebleed doesn't see, but he's still like, yeah, Gaethje, kick his ass. Maybe that guy is screwing Gaethje in the end because he's like, yeah, I got momentum. But Gaethje was just focused on the goal at hand, the task at hand, and that was Daniel Cormier's point. He said that in a different circumstance, in a different setting, Justin Gaethje might have lost because he might have reacted too much to the fans.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I heard this the other day on Worldwide, and I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on it. They had a fighter on.
This is like an ex-lover.
It's about the Gaethje fight. So they were saying, the argument they were making was that Tony Ferguson was training more for Khabib, and that Justin Gaethje, he wasn't prepared to fight Justin Gaethje, and when he did fight him, and he just kind of took his ass whooping in stride. Do you think that's a plausible excuse, or do you think it's more of a cop-out?
Probably 70, 80, 20, probably a cop-out. Don't take the fight then.
Right.
Just wait for whenever Khabib can fight in September or October. Oh, you can't wait. You're anxious. You got to fight now. Yeah. So they don't have an excuse or a cop-out. It's like, pick a side on that.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot who's mentioned it, but they were just this was a long time ago. But like, you should be prepared to fight every fighter. You shouldn't just go. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of technician that goes into when you go against Khabib or Conor, but you should be prepared to fight every fighter that there is. There should be no excuses.
100%. Do you think Michael Jordan would make this excuse, man?
No,
hell no.
He wouldn't. No.
Exactly, man. It's like I would love to get into some Last Dance talk, man.
I didn't finish yet. I gotta.
I'm done. Chris, you're the only one who hasn't watched.
I'm on episode. I just finished episode 6. If
you said under 5, I might have flipped out.
No, I've been trying to cry. You know why? I've been watching The Sopranos like crazy. So I've been focusing all my attention on The Sopranos, and now that I'm finally finished, I've been.
Is this the second time?
No, first time.
Ever The Sopranos?
First time ever The Sopranos. Yes.
What season are you on?
I'm on the last step. I got 1 episode left.
What?
Oh my God! This is where we have to go to show.
I know.
You shouldn't even watch.
Well, the worst part about it is, like, I know how it ends. Like, I know Tony gets shot, and then it just cuts.
Wait, you don't know that.
I do know that. I've heard too many people talk about it for it to not know the ending.
Well, then you're a poor listener.
I know. I am. I'm off. I'm like, and then even worse. I'm listening to ESPN like a week ago. And they had Christopher on from the show, and they were talking because there's a new Sopranos podcast, and he mentioned something that I didn't watch it. I was like, oh my God, come on, I didn't watch it yet. I spoiled. I'm like, I know I'm 20 years late, but come on.
Did you guys hear they're doing like a show called Newark? I think it's
they're doing a prequel or some kind of prequel to the Sopranos.
When's that thing coming out?
I don't know if it's HBO though. I don't remember if it was HBO or if it's like something else. But I did hear something that they are doing a show called Newark or something like that.
Okay. It says March 2021. Okay.
The craziest thing I heard this weekend was I heard they're doing a reboot of Scarface.
Yeah, with Michael B. Jordan.
you can't reboot that movie, Clem. Like, you can't, dude.
Oh, I know. I agree with you. But
I think Michael B. Jordan's too nice.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but even so, you can't reboot that movie. Like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
It can't be. No, people have to see the original. The original is in a class of its own.
I mean, the
Maybe
Batman.
What'll happen is like Pacino will have like a cameo as like a dishwasher or something in the background or something, you know, because no one will know who the hell he is. And I'm like, you can't do that. That's
I agree with you, man. They're doing Batman remakes now too, with Robert Pattinson.
They do a Batman remake every 2 years.
That's Spider-Man. Batman, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Isaac, UFC 250 is going to probably go on. It's scheduled for June 6th. They just don't have a place for it yet from what I was reading. I think it's either going to be Vegas or Jacksonville. It's right now headlined by Amanda Nunes against Felicia Spencer. And my question is, do you know anything about Felicia Spencer? The fact that she fights in her. It just seems like when you look at it, it just looks like a totally one-sided fight with Nunes. That's what.
And this is a one-sided card, man. That fight is about it. They to drill it home on UFC 249. They should have made it free on ESPN. See, the fact that Craig, you didn't see it. I mean, were you available to watch? Like, if it was free?
Probably, but I wasn't. Yeah.
That's why they screwed it up. Bite the bit now and like on the front end. Yeah, and then you get like 100 million viewers. Like, if they made it free, I'm sure 100 million people have nothing to do. My brothers tuned in for the free on ESPN fights, but they didn't want to pay for the pay-per-view.
But I didn't watch I didn't watch a lot of it. But like you said, it was awkward listening to the sound of like when there's nobody in the crowd, the impact of the kicks and make a difference. Like, you really definitely hear it.
Greg Hardy said he was hearing Daniel Cormier like give advice as a commentator. And he's like, "Oh, Greg needs to do this," and he's like, "Oh, okay."
Well, that's like even with the when Anthony Smith was in his corner, you're able to hear more things in the corner. He was like, "Yeah, I'm losing all my teeth." I'm like, I was like, "Oh, that's like." It's cool to hear, but it's like, oh, I feel bad that he's losing all of his teeth. Like,
dude, he apparently took it out and handed it to the ref. And the ref's probably like, what the fuck? Okay. And then I get like some people, it's like, I think it's a genetic advantage, like their jaw. Like some people just like, what's the movie? Raging Bull. Like,
yeah.
What was this fighter? LaMotta. Right?
Jake LaMotta, yeah.
Jake LaMotta, apparently, like, he could just take a beating. Like, that was his, like, attribute. Like, if he was a Mortal Kombat character, it would say, like, jawline, 10 out of 10. But apparently, Anthony Smith would not be knocked out, and Glover Teixeira kept punching, and Glover Teixeira, I'm pretty sure this is the exact quote. He goes, "I'm sorry, this is my job," and he's like just punching him, and he's like, "No, I understand. Like you're not gonna knock me out, but I'm sorry," because there's a lot of discussion about the stoppage. What the hell were we talking about? Oh yes, Felicia Spencer. She's like everybody's big sister. I swear, she wears like the push-up bras and the t-shirts. She doesn't wear like the cutoff like women's wear in the UFC. She wears the t-shirts. She's a hell of a grappler. A ferocious competitor. She's been in there with Cyborg. She just fought.
She beat Cyborg, didn't she? Or
barely lost.
Barely lost. Okay.
Good decision. Gained a ton of experience, but she is the only one in that division for Amanda Nunes to fight, and that is the 145-pound featherweight division. It's very thin, so that's the only reason why this fight's happening. So Felicia Spencer, she's a hell of a competitor, fighter, and Amanda Nunes, this should be another knockout. Unless, of course, mentally she's not there.
Now, yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Stop lying like you know exactly what I'm going to say.
He does this all the time. He piggybacks off my questions.
I got my paper.
We got to go over the questions for Isaac, just to make sure we don't. Yeah, I got it. I'm ready to go.
Oh, is he the guy that's going to watch Sopranos, the final episode, and be like, yeah, I knew that. I saw that. Who didn't see that coming?
Well, no, I was going to ask because, Amanda's dominated everyone in her weight class, basically. What's next for her?
She should fight Henry Cejudo. Dude, I'm serious. Would you watch that? If she had a limit, she has to weigh 150. He has to weigh 130. Like,
yeah.
Would you watch?
For that. I would watch that. Yeah.
Craig, are you buying that pay-per-view?
I'd probably buy it.
Dude,
Yeah. I'm not gonna.
that
I
should be.
think there are some women in the UFC that could beat up guys.
Yeah, let her do her spots on Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres, like Sarah Palin's in her corner or something. Like build up the women viewers, and I think you sell a colossal event.
Back to Gaethje for a minute. So it looks like the next fight will be Gaethje Khabib. Is that pretty much set in stone? But my question is, though, do you think Dana's going to push for that fight when they can have fans in the arenas again to generate more revenue, obviously? Or do you think that he's so eager to get that fight going that it wouldn't matter empty arena or no empty arena? The next fight is going to be Gaethje Khabib.
I think they'll wait for the fans. I think that's
more
such
of 2021, you think? Like,
dude, you want to be stuck in your house that long?
I was barely losing it today.
I mean, hopefully, I don't know how much science we're going to bring into this or coronavirus talk, but they're saying we should have a window in July, August, September, right before flu season. So
yeah, that's what I heard. I heard that too. That makes sense, though, in a way.
Maybe Dana White, they shoot for that window in September. Do Khabib versus Gaethje. I mean, Conor could always screw up everything. You know, if he fights Gaethje over the summer, or if he fights Masvidal over the summer, you better believe he's going to grab the mic, say a promo, and slide into that fight against Khabib if he wants.
By the way, I saw your tweet to Conor McGregor today after Tyson had said that.
Yes.
Tyson had said that McGregor did really well in the McGregor-Mayweather fight. Conor, Clem, I don't know if you saw it, but McGregor wrote Tyson back and basically said, or wrote the reporter, but whoever it was that put it on there, and McGregor just wrote, yeah, that was a great fight, and that was a great this and that, and Isaac just writes back, was, with a big question mark.
Like, bro, you were thankful, not like I am thankful for the opportunity. I'm thankful for your like, yeah, dude. Everybody needs to watch this Jordan documentary, man. The first episode, which Clem probably watched like 2 days ago, like I went for a jog, man. It was that inspiring. Like I people think I'm crazy. Call this a hot take. I think this is hotter than the Amanda Nunes versus Cejudo fight. Jordan could win an office position, a political office position.
Yeah, I think he
Not
could.
the wrong possibility. Yeah, I could definitely see it.
He's more experienced than Trump. He's more like a cleaner, way cleaner record, like background check. He's a businessman. I mean, you could question the Bobcats, how they've been doing. Is it even called the Bobcats anymore?
The Hornets.
Dude, I'm in my MMA bubble, but I'm like, Barkley was trying to run for like office in Alabama. Like I'd vote for Jordan if he ran for something.
Look, if Kane can be the mayor of Knoxville County, Tennessee, then anyone can be any political position.
Who? Kane?
Kane, yeah.
He's a WWE.
WWE.
That's not
Cain Velasquez?
No,
No.
Kane, like WWE. Kane.
From WWF. He's now the mayor of Tennessee.
Oh wait, and then he
He's like
did the movie See No Evil,
Yep,
didn't it? Like
that's it.
wait, I remember the turn when he started showing his face. It pissed me off because he used to flip the hair back, choke slam the people. Dude, yeah, I've had the WWE like
Jesse
game.
Ventura could be the governor of Minnesota in the past, and anything is possible. I mean, what kind of slander video could you have against Jordan in a political video? Just him swinging and missing at a curveball with the White Sox? Not a lot there, man.
Yeah, his opponent is like some old dude. He's like, hey, can't even hit the curve.
All you got to do is just show that jump shot over Craig Elo, and then you're like, he's got my vote.
Which one was the Craig Elo? Was that the Cavaliers?
It was like in the night. Yeah, it was the Cavaliers. It was, I think it was Game 6 or Game 7.
The one that like bounced in,
Yeah,
rattled in, as they say.
like, he's got my vote.
What do you guys have been saying about The Last Dance? What's your big takeaways?
I love it. I think it's been so.
Oh, not you. By you guys, I mean Craig. You've watched half of it.
Listen, I guess my favorite part is the Dennis Rodman portion, because I just think Dennis Rodman's a man.
Have you gotten to Dennis Rodman, Clem?
Yeah, I got there.
With Carmen Electra.
I never knew he dated Madonna and Carmen Electra.
I didn't know about Madonna, but Carmen Electra was pretty. That was pretty, like, obviously out there. But I didn't know about Madonna. But
That was very pretty out
Dennis, Yeah, Dennis Rodman was probably like my personal favorite part so far.
Dude,
He invented workload management. He literally took off for like 5 days without them knowing. They gave him 2 days off, and they were like, "Okay, you can have the 2 days off." He didn't come back for another like 3 days after that.
And I think he performed, right? Or they said he was doing like killing it in practice, right? The sprints, the wind sprints, he was beating everybody. Dude, in the final episode, wait, you saw it, Craig, right?
I haven't seen the final episode yet, so I can't. I'm sorry, man. I know.
There's a shot where Carmen Electra has no bra on. She's wearing like a leather top. And Robin's like, kiss the trophy. And she's like, all right. Dude, like, hats off to Rodman for that, man.
Wow, he's the man. I was always a big Rodman fan with Detroit and even with Chicago. And way back when, I used to be a Knicks fan during the Jordan days, and like just the way he used to just kill the Knicks. That team just destroyed the Knicks. Like, it was just. I mean, it was a thing of beauty in many ways, but.
Wani gets pissed off about that, the fandom, the Knick fandom. I'm a Jets fan, and I could like commend and respect Tom Brady. It's like I'm a Knick fan. I could take my hat off and tip it to Jordan. It's like the best of the best.
Would you do it for Reggie Miller? Reggie Miller took personal pleasure in like destroying Knicks fans, especially Spike Lee.
He just seemed like a spoiled brat. Like he didn't handle it like a man. Like even Pippen, when you see Pippen like dunk on Ewing, it's like act like you've done it before. Like Jordan handled everything different. I think Miller and Pippen, like they're obviously alphas compared to us, but it's like compared to Jordan, they'd be betas.
We are talking to Ike Feldman, host of the Ike-Tagon podcast. Okay. The last time I heard from my girl, Joanna Jadrizik, did I get it right this time? Woohoo! The last time we heard from Joanna, I didn't recognize her after her fight with Zhang Weili because I've never seen her. Wow. I felt really like just bad. And then, the hematoma, she just looked like a hot mess. At this point in her career, she's lost 4 or 6 fights, and she's 31 years old. Is it safe to say that she's pretty much done fighting for the title? Like, would she have to go on a run where she has to beat Andrade, Amanda Nunes, and maybe even Rose Namajunas to get back into the
one big win? If she does finish a female fighter inside of 3 rounds, then she could be back for the title. But she's got to do it like definitively. It's got to be like maybe a knockout. She's not going to submit anybody, but maybe a TKO finish. Right. If she does a boring decision, barely wins, then maybe she's another fight away. But if she comes out, rocks some girl, knocks her out, gets on the mic, says, "I'm coming for the belt, Weili." I mean, I'm making everybody seem like Conor McGregor, but if Joanna is able to do that, then she'd be right in the mix. I mean, that's as close as decision as it gets. I know,
it was a great fight. It was just I just couldn't believe how much she took a beating.
Yeah, the optics weren't good. It's like you can't raise the winner's hand and then the head's like hanging out. Like the optics wouldn't look good if they gave it to her.
No, don't wave my hand. Just tell me I won because if I wave, it's gonna get ugly really fast.
Yeah, Stephen A. Smith was like, the winner can't look like shit. He would not be happy about that, but. I mean, she barely lost. She barely lost on the numbers. That was a chaotic fight, man. Yeah. And the main event sucked. Yoel Romero versus Israel Adesanya.
Go ahead, Quinn.
I was going to say, speaking of close fights, I want to get your thoughts on the John Jones-Dominic Reyes fight, and when will they fight again?
Never.
You don't think so?
It's going to be Jan Blachowicz versus John Jones if he wants, or it's going to be John Jones versus heavyweight. I think John Jones is going to avoid that, and he's at the point in his career that he can be a diva. I mean, they should run it back. In all honesty, it should be an epic rematch. We get to see what adjustments John Jones makes. We get to see what adjustments Dominic Reyes makes, but I think that's low reward for a high risk for John Jones. He should just face an opponent he hasn't seen before. But there's this whole thing like – rematch Jones. Like against Alexander Gustafsson. He destroyed him against Daniel Cormier, both rematches. He knocked him out as well. It's like maybe he gets better. I would love to see it as like a purist, but if I'm a businessman for John Jones, I'd say fight Jan Blachowicz, get the victory, move on. Nobody's going to complain. It's another belt, another victory, or go to heavyweight.
Who do you think won that fight, though? Do you think John Jones won?
I think it was a draw. It
was real close. I remember watching that fight. I'm like, oh, Dominic Reyes has won this. I thought he won it. And then they raised Jones' hands. I was like, what?
Do the draw because
it was so close, though.
John, if you make it a draw, John Jones doesn't get a loss on his record. And 2, they have to do the rematch.
Yeah.
So if the UFC, I mean, they don't control the judges. But if you are the UFC, the draw would have been perfect because John Jones, like I said, doesn't lose the fight, and you get to see the rematch. But I think he's going to run away from it.
Getting back to Israel Adesanya, this is more of like a 2-part question. Who will be his next opponent after he beat Yoel Romero, and who should be his next opponent?
So if you guys don't follow him, you guys should follow Paulo Costa. This is the fighter that Israel Adesanya is going to fight. He's an undefeated Brazilian slugger. If you guys know Vitor Belfort, he is the 2.0 version. He's stronger, faster, a little less steroids, a little less. There's still accusations that hang around him. And Israel Adesanya is the 2.0 Anderson Silva. Slick, gangly fighter with beautiful striking. That's going to be the fight. But more importantly, dude, I'm telling you, follow Paulo Costa. He just called this good-looking girl on Twitter. He's like, yeah, you're a man lady. And just because I think she has high cheekbones, dude, he's going in. He's like calling people really bad slurs. So I'm not advising you to follow him, but you need to follow him. Dude, he goes in. Whether it's him or his manager, they pull no punches, sexist, chauvinist, homophobic. I mean, I shouldn't be advertising this. This is really bad, but it's entertaining.
Okay.
So that's who he's fighting next.
What's that?
So that's who he's fighting next. A very non-PC guy.
Okay, so this is no bullshit, and this is my last question. I know I always leave you hanging with this type of stuff.
Yeah, my last question. Dude, you need to do a segment, my last question.
It's a new segment I put together on this show. So I want you to give me the name of a fighter. We just saw it recently with Cain Velasquez. Give me the name of a fighter, MMA fighter, who is
Henry Cejudo.
What's that? Who could be the next guy after his career is long and gone, like done in the UFC or whatever, who could wind up signing a big money deal with the WWE.
Henry Cejudo.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think he embraces the chaos and the criticism and the haters extremely well.
But do you think this is a good thing? Like, because MMA fighters always seem to look like, because with WWE it's all sports entertainment, and it's hard to, like, when you watch a guy, like, for example, when you watch Cain Velasquez lose a wrestling match to Brock Lesnar in WWE, you say to yourself, well, Jesus, it doesn't make any sense because he kicked his ass in UFC. Like, it's just like, and since it's all predetermined.
I didn't know that happened. I would say
in like Saudi Arabia, like a few months back.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good
at all. It was like a 2-minute match. It was probably one of the worst matches ever. But
jeez, I mean, as a script writer, that's like treating the audience like idiots, right? Like at some point.
Like, I mean, I guess from a monetary standpoint, of course, it's going to be amazing to take the money and do half the work, I would say, just because in UFC, it's all. But it just, from the optics point of it, when you're seeing a UFC fighter fight another UFC fighter who's a wrestler and then he gets pinned, even though the guy whipped his ass twice, it just looks weird unless it's not in the octagon.
Just needs to be better script writing. I don't know. I like what they're doing with Ronda. I like that she's like telling people, what is it, kayfabe, right? Kayfade?
Yeah.
Isn't that who Britney Spears banged?
Maybe.
The K-Fed?
Why do I know that?
Well, like, I like what they're doing with Ronda.
You said it. I answered it like that.
John Stamos.
Yeah. I gotta get a life, Ike. I should not know that quickly.
Oh my gosh.
What's up with you guys though? What are you watching? Any binging? I can't binge. I'm a movie guy.
I am right now watching Narcos Mexico on Netflix.
Okay.
One of my
How is that?
favorites. It's really good, but like literally the entire show is in Spanish. If you can deal with the subtitles, you'll love the show. But it's really good, though.
I can definitely deal with the subtitles. My wife's European.
The problem with me is I have 2 kids and they're homeschooled. They're on distant learning right now, so the TV is gone. Like I don't get anywhere near it until they go to bed. So that's really the only time I get to watch like anything. So I have to pick one show at a time basically, and that's what I'm watching is Narcos Mexico. It's really good though. Like I really like it a lot.
Wow. So you're like, you tuck your kid. How many kids do you have?
I have 2. I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old.
So you're like daddy daycare, tucking them in, love you guys, and then you turn on the channel. It's like, vamonos, let's fucking kill them, Holmes.
No, this is a fact. This is actually what happens a lot of times. Sometimes I wake up really early in the morning and my kids are still sleeping, and I'm like, I have my cup of coffee. I'm ready to sit down and watch Narcos. I'm literally 20 minutes into it, and just when the part's really good, when they're gonna like kill somebody,
Show some tits.
freaking daughter wakes up, and I'm like, damn it! It's like I gotta stop what I'm watching. It's like, and I was like, get super pissed, and I'm like,
You change the channel quickly. She's like, Dad, what are you watching? Oh, I was just watching Cops.
Yeah, I have Disney Plus on standby for them. Just it's like all they need to see is walk in, they see some guy getting their brains blown out or something.
Yeah, dude. I saw the first season. It is pretty graphic, sexual, everything that Paulo Costa tweets. Same stuff.
But right now, that's my show. Before that, I was watching The Mandalorian on Disney Plus.
Dude, how is it?
Badass show. It's a good show.
Gina Carano's in it.
Yes, she had a big part in it too.
So I heard.
But yeah, no, that's been like a really good show too.
I was gonna say, yeah. Before I binge watched The Sopranos, I watched every single Marvel movie from start to finish.
The 18, right? It's 18.
It's 23.
It's 23.
Yeah, I watched all the way from Iron Man 1 to Spider-Man Far From Home, which is the latest one.
I haven't seen the latest Spider-Mans. What are your top
Is
3
that-
Marvels?
Wait, Quinn, what's the latest Spider-Man? Is that That's Far From Home?
That's Far From Home, yeah.
That was all right. That was decent. I liked it.
I liked it a lot.
Jake Gyllenhaal was a pretty decent villain in that movie.
My top,
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah,
Jake Gyllenhaal's in it.
villain in the movie.
What?
He's the
Damn, I
villain.
totally missed that.
He's the
But
villain.
what's kind of cool is I've gotten my daughter into Marvel. So she likes watching the Marvel movies. So the other day I finally sat down and watched Thor Ragnarok. 'Cause I hadn't seen it yet.
Oh.
Daddy, why don't you look like Thor?
And I didn't look like him 10 years ago either.
We're like, oh well, on Earth, honey, I'm weaker, but
I go, well, my daughter's name is Riley. I'm like, well, Riley, there's this thing called bar crawls. And unfortunately, what happens with bar crawls is you don't look the way you did before you started the bar crawl.
Amazing.
She's really, really smart about it. She's like, I got it now.
Craig, I got a huge life question for you, a pretty serious question. But before I ask, Chris, what are your top 3 Marvels?
My top 3 Marvel movies are Endgame, Infinity War, Civil War.
So you
I
like
gotta
those are like
watch Civil War. I haven't seen Civil War yet.
It's good. It's really good.
it is when they fight in the airport.
Endgame
Right?
was awesome, and so was Infinity War. Infinity War was really good.
Dude, Infinity War was great. They should have ended the series on that. No, how are we gonna make more money? We're gonna go back in time.
I remember when I saw Infinity War and when it ended, like I didn't realize that it was the first part before it got to Endgame.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, when I sat in the theater, I'm like, I was so pissed on the way home because I was like, I didn't know that it was that they were going to continue it with Infinity War. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So when you see Thanos just sitting there, like just being all proud of what he did,
I loved it.
I was like, and then when the credits came up, I'm like, no. I'm like, I almost like literally screamed like in the movie theater. I was like, no, this can't be it. I was like, and then I realized, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't realize that. Oh, it's just a continuation. It's all good.
It confirmed my hate for Chris Pratt.
What? You hate Chris Pratt?
No, well he screwed up the glove.
Oh yeah. I thought you were talking about Chris Pratt in general. I was like,
Oh no, he's cool. He's cool.
Well, no, yeah, he screwed it all up. I was like, what the hell? What are you doing?
But it was anti-ending, like revert. I don't know. I didn't mind it.
All right, so Isaac has a life question for me, which I never thought this day would come. So I am ready.
My wife is pregnant. I mean,
Hey, congratulations.
Congrats.
What advice, man? Because you seem like
Clem,
a similar type of style of father that I would be.
we were talking about this last week, Clem and I.
About my kid?
Yeah, of course about that. We need to prep for tonight. You know. So one thing I was
Not yours, right?
Huh?
It's not yours, right?
Two. No. 2 is my max. I can't. If I was 3, I'd build a panic room in my home right now.
For you, it'd be a TV and a fridge.
Yeah. TV, and then just doing this the whole time, trying to just find anybody to talk to. One thing I was talking about with Clem one night, we were just talking because I was having with my kids, is the key is always, if you want to survive as a parent, you got to get your children into things that you're into. Okay?
Interesting.
So, perfect example. I've gotten my oldest daughter into WWE. She loves watching WWE. And literally now when I wake up, WWE is on the TV.
Wow.
Because she just really likes it. I've taken her to a couple of live events. We've been to the WrestleMania Fan Fest together and all that stuff. She's met a couple of the wrestlers and everything. And she loves it. She absolutely loves it. When there's a pay-per-view, she's like, oh, can we watch it for a little while? Can we watch it? And all that stuff. To me, that's one of the easiest things. It'll make your life a lot easier because trust me, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, let's go to, let's go see, I don't know, what's a kids movie out these days? Trolls. You're gonna be like, oh, let's go see Trolls, and you'll be borderline miserable because that's just how it is. Now, when you get to share it, do you know what you're having yet, or you don't know yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, that's good. Do you want to find out in advance?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have 2 girls. So here's the thing. Those types of things, it's fun to sit there and watch it with them, watching wrestling with them, because it makes life a lot easier. It makes life kind of hey, let's watch WrestleMania. We can watch WrestleMania together. And it's not even about the fact of it being violent or whatever. But whether you have a son, whether you have a daughter, you will appreciate it so much more. And when you're sitting with your son or daughter on your couch watching UFC 1021, watching the third son of Conor McGregor fighting in the main event, they're going to be like, this is all worth it. Because that's really what it is.
Wow.
It sounds weird.
Genius, man.
It sounds ridiculous. And a lot of people kind of look at me kind of awkward. When I tell people that my daughter's into wrestling, they look at me with this weird, you get your daughter into wrestling? And I'm like, yeah, why not? Why am I going to? And the thing is, if she enjoys it, so what? Now, if she goes and does what she wants to do stuff that I may not be that crazy about. She likes to go to the movies. I like to go to the movies. I like to take her to the movies all the time. Can't do that right now, but she does enjoy it. And eventually when she gets old enough, I'll start taking her to concerts because it's another thing I like to do. Those are the things that are going to make your life that much more fun with kids. I will tell you, it's going to be I wouldn't be surprised if you just all of a sudden need a project because you're so frustrated when you're have a toddler and you build an octagon in your basement or something, you just go to work because there's going to be those days that they're going to drive you crazy. They're just going to drive you nuts. And then there are days where it's just, it's totally worth it. It's a lot of fun. And those will happen more times, of course, than not. So I wish you guys all the best, you and your wife, on a happy and healthy, pregnancy and everything. And that's pretty much the best advice I can give you is just, you always want to do something. You always want to teach your child something that you're into. I just think it always makes that a lot more fun. It's almost the equivalent of when a father takes their kid out to play catch, play basketball, play baseball, that type of thing. But something just watching WWE has made me and my daughter bond so much more. And now my youngest is into WWE, which is even crazy enough.
Wow.
So, and she's more demanding than the older one. So it's but again, those are the types of things that Not that I was planning this brainwashing into effect. It really wasn't my goal at the time. Yeah, it was my goal. It just happened, I just said it was like, it was the only way I knew I could be a really good dad is just by getting in. And like I said, you bond with your kids so much more. So I wish you nothing but the best, and, congratulations. And it's great news. So,
Thank you, brother.
that's pretty much it on my part. Clem, you got anything you want to jump in on this?
He's crying already.
Yeah, I know. That's why he put the small screen in the upper left corner. You can't see. This is the founder of the network here.
Is that for real?
Yeah, I was just, because I've been trying. I messaged you that one day about getting a job at CBS if you knew anyone. And it's been a year now since I graduated, and I haven't found anything. It's been so tough to find something.
Dude, if I took a screenshot, I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I have 22 job tabs open on my screen right now. And then it says Moffett on the mic.
That's what it was for me. Like, I was applying to jobs like every other week, and now that the COVID's going on, like they're emailing me back saying, "Oh, we're not hiring people at this time because of the coronavirus." I'm like, "Oh, great." So I was like, you know what? Something me and Craig talked about when we were at Worldwide. I was going to start my own thing, and I finally, for my birthday, the only thing I asked for was like sound equipment and microphones and stuff like that, just so I can get something going. I figured out how to run create a website, and I started this whole thing. And I knew friends who wanted to do this. I had like ideas and blogs ready to go and everything like that. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let me start my own thing. If no one's gonna hire me, I might as well start my own thing and see and pray it jumps off in the near future.
You sound great. Craig sounds like shit. I don't think he has a mic over there.
Yeah, thanks, man.
But I got one more thing. I'm
doing this off a laptop for crying out loud.
Moffett on the PC now.
Yeah, Moffett on the PC. Moffett on Zoom.
This wouldn't be an Ike Feldman interview if I didn't ask a Ronda Rousey question. So,
all right, this is where I sign off. Wait, I thought weren't you on like a Holly Holm kick for a while, and then you went to...
I was never on a Holly Holm kick. I was on a page.
We might have to...
We were talking about how he had like a trifecta of blonde MMA.
It was Kayla Harrison.
Oh, yeah.
I still love her. But back to Ronda,
He doesn't return his calls.
This is the last.
You ever see, what is it, Saving Silverman, when they capture Neil, was it Neil Young?
Yeah, Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond, and they're like, "Are you the one that sends me the photos?" That's Clem.
Do you see Ronda at all coming back to the UFC at all?
Isn't she gonna have a kid? Like, doesn't she want to have a family? Like,
she said that a year ago after the last WrestleMania. That's why she hasn't come back to WWE in over a year. But she hasn't gotten pregnant yet. And her recent bashing of the WWE, and I don't think that's kayfabe. I think that's just her general statement that she doesn't like working for the WWE anymore. Is it possible she comes back to the UFC?
She would have to be like doing many sparring and training sessions, and then all of a sudden she's just feeling super, super confident. Her confidence is just flowing week to week, builds up to month, and maybe she creates a whole season of training. And this is all on her own because obviously nobody's paying her to train. There's no fight on the horizon. So if she gets into it naturally, organically, and the sport comes into her life naturally, yes. But it's a very, very small chance that she's going to do it. I mean, don't those WWE guys work like 300 days out of like 350, 360 days a year?
Anywhere between 250 to 300 now.
They gave WWE gave her time off to start this family, and it's been over a year, and she hasn't started it yet. And she came out recently bashing the WWE, saying how they're terrible, and the fans don't appreciate me like they did in the UFC, et cetera. So I was just like, maybe it's not kayfabe, and maybe it's just her expressing her own real feelings, and just maybe she will go back to the UFC.
Small chance, but I would love to see it, man. But I hope she does it for the right reasons. I hope she does it because like she doesn't like working with Vince McMahon or the WWE staff. I hope she does it because she has a point to prove in the UFC, not like, oh, that's my ex-lover. I'm going to go jump in this Corvette with a guy who still treats me douchey, but at least I get a ride. Like, I hope she does it for the right reason. I hope she's the driver in the Corvette.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Isaac, if I could give you one more piece of advice about your future child.
Don't name them Chris.
Yeah, it's not the greatest name in the world. One thing I learned from like shopping for kids, clearance racks are the way to go.
All right, yeah. Me and my wife are in agreement. She doesn't need, or he doesn't need Jordan 10s.
Yeah, because they'll go. You know why? They'll grow right through it.
Yeah.
And trust me. It's just like every time we bought stuff for our kids, everything's through the clearance rack because it's just so much easier. It's cheaper. It does the job just as much as if you had just bought something else at like Baby Gap or something like that. But you'd be amazed at how quick and like always accept hand-me-downs. Hand-me-downs are the best.
My sis just had one in January, so.
Yeah, saves you a ton of money, trust me. So.
All right.
But listen, man, congratulations. Best of luck to you and your wife. Please give her our best. And hopefully we'll have you on again right before. Not in the delivery room, of course.
Yeah, dude. I can't top that. Like,
dude, I don't have time to talk about Israel Adesanya right now. My wife's in labor.
Or it'd be reverse. It'd be like, hold on, honey.
Yeah, just contractions. I got it. Okay. 3 minutes apart, you're good. Okay, Craig. So about UFC 527.
Oh,
but
guys, this is great, man.
This wouldn't have been the return of my show without you on board, and I am very grateful and appreciative for you to take time out of your busy night to come hang out with us and talk some MMA and have a lot of laughs like we always do.
Dude, let's Chris, if you're not, put out your thoughts on The Sopranos tomorrow. Can you watch it tonight?
I probably am gonna watch it tonight. Yeah.
All right. That's all I care about. Like, forget the interview, forget the UFC, forget the baby advice. I want to know your.
All right, I'll let as soon as I watch the last episode, I'll give you my thoughts.
I swear to God, if you sit there and say afterwards, "There's so much more going on," I'm literally never going to talk. Because
same.
Everybody used to say that to me, like, and I'm like, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Like, like the minute it went, and again, you haven't seen it, so you'll be the judge. But if you tweet out this quote, "There's so much more going on than what people really thought," I literally will never talk to you again.
You're like, I'm like, move out to California, you.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm like thinking now. Like, I'm watching it. I'm like, they could still like continue the story a little bit.
Oh, here we go.
But like, you just can't keep without the like some of the main characters have died. I'm like, you can't really continue it without.
Here's the funny thing, though. Cliff, you remember Isaac? You remember Joey G, right?
From
The Sopranos, the big dude when he remember Johnny Cakes?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I see that guy from time, not anymore because we're under quarantine, but I used to go to a restaurant by us in Carl Place called
Vincent's, yep.
And
I've
he
seen him
used
there.
to always be there, like signing autographs and shit, and selling Sopranos merch. Swear to God, he was always there. But the thing was, after Sopranos ended, because all those guys are so freaking typecast that they're not exactly doing Shakespeare in the Park. Like, they're pretty much, it's like, this is all they do. So my dad actually was like, my dad went there one night with his girlfriend, and he just said hello and shook his hand, and he's like, "Oh, how's everything?" And he goes, since Sopranos was great, but since it's I'm pretty much typecast as like a mafioso.
Ray Liotta.
Really, the roles are very hard to come by, so I have to kind of do this to make ends meet and stuff. So it was very interesting. He was pretty cool. He said he was a very, very cool guy.
I thought you were going to say he has like a hotcake stand in the park.
I hope not.
Craig, it's funny you mentioned that. I met him there once too. I wasn't watching The Sopranos, and when I was dating my girlfriend, we were sitting right next to him. And the waiter, I was asking the waiter, I was like, "What's this guy doing?" He was just selling stuff there. I was like, "What's he doing?" He was like, "Oh, he was on The Sopranos." I was like, "Oh, okay." I had no idea who he was on the show, and I'm watching it. I met the guy. I was like, "Oh, I lied to him. I lied my ass off." I was like, "Oh, I love The Sopranos, man. It's so good." I haven't watched an episode at that time, and it was just really cool to meet that guy though. He was very humble and down to earth.
One of my first jobs was at the Hammerstein Ballroom in the city, working like a lot of the concerts and a lot of events. and they had Comedy Central was filming at the time the roast of Dennis Leary.
Okay.
And a few of the Sopranos guys were there, like the guy who played Johnny Sack, the older guy. He's from a few seasons before though.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't really in the last season or two because I think they eventually killed him off. But he definitely wasn't in the last
cancer.
season.
He died of cancer. That just happened.
That's what it was. So, and like, you know, Big Pussy was there and all that stuff. And like they walk in literally like they are part of like the freaking, like a crime family. And I'm like standing there and I'm like, really guys? I'm like, I mean, I know this is like your 15 minutes, but I'm like watching these guys walk in. They got the suits and everything. And Dennis Leary looks just like them, by the way, and he's Irish, right? So he looks like he belongs, you know, like as part of like The Departed. And I'm just like looking at him. I'm like, seriously, you guys have got to stop. I'm like, Sopranos is a great show, but you guys are, you know.
I know you guys aren't hitting anybody with the bat. You guys are all theater majors.
Yeah, I'm just like looking at the guys. I'm like, dude, seriously.
Hey, I'll put you in my trunk.
And then what are you gonna do? You're gonna cuddle with them because you're a theater major.
Yeah, and I'm like, it was just like, it just made me laugh. So I'm like, all right, guys, I get it. You know, Sopranos, big time thing, and you know, so forth. All right, well, listen, Isaac, thank you very much for being on our show again. Again, you're definitely a big part of our show as a guest, and we always look forward to having you on, talking MMA and having a lot of laughs. And definitely want to have you on again very, very soon. So, and again, congratulations on the future edition.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome, man. Seriously, thank you again.
All right, take it easy, man.
Later, brothers.
See ya.
Hold on, I gotta exit. Hold on.
Yeah,
This is weird now. Hold on, wait. All right, later, brothers.
we can't talk about you until you leave. That was the one and only Isaac Feldman on the Ike-Tagon podcast. Definitely check it out. He's had some pretty good interviews lately, and he is our one-stop source for MMA, for all things MMA. And Clem, again, without Isaac, you know, he is one of the people that does make this show, and we have a lot of laughs with him.
Oh, that was great. It felt like old times, just doing it with him right there.
So definitely check out the Ike-Tagon podcast. Follow him on Twitter because he's always got some good tweets. So he's a lot of fun to have, and I appreciate him very much coming on our show. He's always been a good friend to me and a good friend to the show, and I thank him very much. Clem, you got anything before we get out of here for today, or?
Like you mentioned earlier, it was, you know, slow weekend in sports. So I mean, I heard there was more news on the change of the Rooney Rule. If I could find it.
Oh, love of God, not this shit again.
Oh yeah, it was the league. No, but this is better. This is at least a little better though. It's the league will require that at least 2 minority candidate interviews for head coach opportunities, and at least 1 for a coordinator spot. That's a little better. I can live with that. That's fine.
All right. I mean, listen, it is what it is, I guess. I mean, it's the best you're going to do. It's better than that ridiculous draft compensation.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty much it. I'm fine with that. But again, here's the problem I'm going to have. If we still wind up hiring a white general manager, are all the black people going to be upset? Are people like Stephen A. Smith going to be all over ESPN railing against the whole process again?
Right.
It's just one of those things that you just cannot have the best of both worlds. You either take what you get, or that's it. So if teams are going to do their part and they're going to interview minority coaches, which they should, totally should, as well as minority executives for VP and GM and president roles, love that opportunity. And if you find the guy you really like, good for you. But at the end of the day, if the results don't change, this is like a good, like, it's like the equivalent of like a science, of like a social experiment. To what extent are you going to keep changing the rules with the same outcome? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be, okay, I'll interview 3 minority candidates because I like this guy, I like this guy, I like this guy. But then when all is said and done, if I interview those guys and I still like the white guy, am I going to get crapped on because I hired a white guy? See, that's my concern.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the NFL is engaging in one of the greatest social experiments of all time by doing this. So, but we'll see what happens. But I think it's a good step. I think it gives more minority candidates a strong opportunity to land big jobs. You know, do I think it's a little long overdue? Sure. But at the end of the day, if I'm the owner of a team, you don't get to tell me who I get to hire.
Yeah.
That's just the way I look at it. As for me, two things really quickly. Number one, it was kind of funny, man. We were talking about the Jets last week with Sam and Adam Gase and everything. So today I decided to just look at Sam's game-by-game stats from last year in 2019. And I came across something that was pretty interesting. He had 13 picks last year. Okay? Not a great number, but not a terrible one either. You're not exactly in Jameis country. But 7 of those picks were in 2 games back-to-back.
Yeah, one was against the Patriots.
That was the Patriots, a see and ghost game. And then the other one was a week later when they played the Jags. He had 3 picks against the Jags. Outside of that, his interceptions were no different than what any other quarterback would have had.
Yeah.
You know, so outside of 2 really crappy games, turnover-wise, he had some really strong games all around. So the more I start to see that, and the more I was watching video of him, you know, with his touchdowns last year, the more I'm confident that he is our franchise quarterback moving forward. So, so there's that. And then the other thing for me was there was another big release over the weekend from WWE. I don't know if you saw it. Drew Gulak was released.
Oh, I didn't see that. Wow, really?
Well, let me rephrase that. He actually wasn't released. That was the original report.
Oh, okay.
The original report claimed he was released. In actuality, so a lot of fans were in an uproar about it because he was just on SmackDown this past Friday.
Yeah.
Wrestling Daniel Bryan. As it turned out, his contract expired, and they did not renew it. So he is officially no longer with the WWE.
Oh.
I really like Drew Gulak. I really like the thing he did with Daniel Bryan. I really like that little team they had. And also, I thought it was and he's a very good mat wrestler. Very, very good mat wrestler. My only thinking around that release is that since the WWE just caught a ton of guys, they caught, you know, Eric Rowan, Leo Rush, just to name a couple off the top of my head. I think they would have gotten vilified if they gave a guy like Drew Gulak more money, which is what he wanted. I think they would have gotten vilified because then it sends a really weird message that, okay, well, you couldn't pay these guys, but you could pay this guy.
Right.
So, and not that Drew Gulak was in a major storyline in WWE. He's not in Roman Reigns territory or, you know, Rollins or whatever. But I think it would have sent a really crappy message if they would have given him more money, but then let 30 guys go just to pay Drew Gulak.
Yeah, it would have.
I don't understand why they ultimately released him, but it's still a pretty big loss. And I don't think Drew Gulak's going to be out of work for very long.
No, yeah, I think, you know, right now AEW is in like a tough spot for signing some of these guys who got released from the WWE. But I think, you know, once, you know, things get back into motion, you know, things start getting back to normal, AEW is going to sign a lot of good talent, you know, Rusev being one of them, potentially Zack Ryder, you know, Leo Rush, EC3, Drew Gulak. There's a ton of good wrestlers. And you can say what you want, you know, oh, that they're just taking WWE scraps. They're not. These guys were good wrestlers that were underused on the WWE, and now they're going to shine like stars they should be in AEW.
Well, the thing is, I don't want AEW to overload their roster with former WWE guys. I want them to keep looking on the indie circuit and all that stuff, because there's a lot of indie guys out there right now that could use a job. I mean, there's a lot of guys on the indie circuit that are not working because of the pandemic.
Right.
You don't know when live events are ever going to happen again with fans and stuff. So I'd rather see AEW give those guys a job, even if it's just a one-off week or whatever it is and everything. Like, you know, even the guys from Creative Pro, like guys like VSK, who's a great wrestler.
Yeah.
You know, he's the Creative Pro champion. You know, I'd love to see a guy like him get into AEW. And one thing you're seeing about Cap is it's becoming a little bit of an avenue to AEW, obviously more than just WWE. Now, Kurt Hawkins was released from WWE, but they were only really using AEW guys for, like, you know, jobbers or like just, you know, spot actors. You know, like the biggest claim to fame on one of them was one of the guys that proved that was like Lana's first husband. You know, and the funny thing was like when I saw him at the last Cap show, that's how he was introduced.
Was Lana's
first husband? He goes, you know, Lana's first husband, and his name is Eric James. He's a very good wrestler. You know. So you're kind of starting to see, because you have MJF, who was in Cap, now is in AEW. You have Chris Statlander, who was in Cap, now is in AEW. So you might be seeing a little bit more of that avenue, going down the road. And I'd rather see the indie guys get it than like the EC3s of the world and everything. And don't sleep on Impact Wrestling too. I mean, the thing about Impact Wrestling that it's funny, because when you watch Impact Wrestling, you can't tell if the show has fans or it doesn't, because they both sound the same.
Yeah.
And Impact Wrestling does have some good wrestlers. Michael Elgin's a great wrestler. They, OVE and Sandy Callahan and Moose, and those guys are, they're great. So, that could be another avenue too, because Impact Wrestling is still doing shows. I think right now the only one out of those main ones that are not doing shows is Ring of Honor. I don't think Ring of Honor is doing shows.
Yeah, I don't think they are either. But I would like to see more of, like you mentioned, like the indie guys come over to AEW and get their shot. But again, I wouldn't be opposed to, guys like Rusev, EC3, Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder going over to AEW, because like I've always mentioned, you've mentioned it a couple times. Those guys got, they didn't get enough burn on WWE, and they were talented guys. A guy like Zack Ryder, who got a pop every time this guy came out to the ring. Big cheer, but he never got the big push. And if he did, he only held the belt for a short amount of time. He held the IC title for a day, not even 24 hours. He held the tag team titles this past year for maybe like a month and a half. It's just, I want to see guys like that succeed as well too. And I think it brings a little bit more of credibility over to the AEW roster.
No, and that makes perfect sense. And it was kind of funny because somebody put a tweet out the other day, because, Impact Wrestling has kind of become more of like the redheaded stepchild of professional wrestling at this point, especially now with AEW taking over and with their TNT TV deal. And of course, WWE. Ring of Honor kind of has carved out a small niche in the wrestling that's consistent, and they draw a big crowd. They don't play big arenas.
Yeah.
The only arena I've seen them playing in that was big was last year, Madison Square Garden, for the Supercard, for the G1 Supercard with New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody had put this out there, and it made a very good point. Impact Wrestling really stressed good women's wrestling. Okay? Because remember, during the Attitude Era, it was all like, somebody had tweeted, and it was 100% right, how it was like these real gimmicky matches, like bra and panty matches and all that stuff. And half the women in WWE at that time weren't the greatest wrestlers either.
Yeah.
Impact Wrestling really kind of put their claim on women's wrestling, because they really focused on the wrestling, not the gimmicks, not the, coming out in bikinis and all that stuff. These ladies went out and wrestled their hearts out, basically.
Yeah.
So if you want to see the true pioneer of women's wrestling, at the time it was TNA Wrestling, not Impact. They changed the name eventually. But when TNA had the six-sided ring,
yeah, I remember that.
That's when women's wrestling was big, was back then.
Yeah, and you can even see, it's big now too, still with Impact. Tessa Blanchard, she's the world champion in TNA. She's the TNA world champion, not the women's champion. She's the world champion, man or woman. I think that's great. I don't know if we'll see that in the WWE, but the fact that, they made her the world, the Impact world champion, it's a great cornerstone for them. And who knows, this might elevate Tessa Blanchard's career to AEW or WWE.
All right, well, listen, that's going to do it for tonight's episode of the Moffett on the Mic show, courtesy of Zoom. As we said before, this will be available via Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It'll be on the A1 website and everywhere else. Very special thank you to Ike Feldman from the Ike-Tagon Podcast, a good friend of our show, a good friend of mine. Really appreciate him taking the time to come on our show. And as always, whenever Clem, Isaac, and I get together, it's always a lot of laughs and a lot of fun. And again, congratulations to Isaac and his wife on the future addition to their family. The best of luck. And it's amazing, Clem. We were just talking about that on like Thursday or Friday. Not about Isaac's wife being pregnant, but it was just about, when I was telling the story about how just having a kid and being, getting them into things that you're into makes your life as a father a lot easier.
Yeah.
and everything. So I guess if there was one piece of advice, I can throw that on whoever, and Isaac especially, that would be it. And like I said, while people will second guess your choices with certain things, and people will roll their eyes and say, "Oh my God, your daughter likes wrestling. She's only 7." I'm like, yes. I mean, she also likes freaking Avengers, and people die in that too. So it's not. It's all, like you can't just sit there and like differentiate one from the other. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
when Isaac is sitting there with his son or daughter watching a UFC pay-per-view and teaching about UFC, you really appreciate it a lot much more as a parent.
Yeah.
So a very special congratulations to Isaac and his wife on the future addition to their family. Clem, thank you for holding it down like you normally do. Tomorrow night, we'll be back with our second guest of the week, another good friend of the show in the past. We'll be talking to Jake Asman from the Jake Asman Show on SB Nation Radio. You can check it out Monday to Friday, 7 to 9, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Apologies. He just started up today and had a real kick-ass show. So we're going to be talking about the Texans. We'll be talking about some Jets football, Yankee baseball, Astros. We talk about a lot of stuff. His thoughts on what the MLB plan is going forward and anything else. And yes, we will make time for the Michael Jordan documentary if we have to. But he'll be on with us tomorrow. What do you say, 8:30 tomorrow night, Clem?
8:30. Yeah, so we're going to do the same thing like we did tonight.
All right. So we'll be on, this will be on Zoom. And then, of course, we'll be headed over. You'll hear it as a podcast on Spotify and everything else. So on behalf of Chris Clem, I am Craig Moffett. You've been listening to the Moffett on the Mic show, courtesy of the A1 Sports Network. Follow my show on Instagram at Moffett on the Mic, Twitter at Moffett on the Mic, and my Facebook page as well. And you can also follow Clem on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also follow Isaac on Ike-Tagon.com, as he's always posting shows up pretty much every week. So again, on behalf of the People's Producer, Chris Clem, I am Craig Moffett. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Monday night. We'll be back here tomorrow night with Jake Asman from the Jake Asman Show. Everybody stay safe out there. Watch yourself. Have a great night, and we'll be back tomorrow. Take it easy, Clem.